Good morning, class 10 students. I welcome you all on this online platform provided by Jagrati Classes. We were doing chapter 6 of class 10, that is life processes. So we'll be continuing with this. This video lesson is for class 10th and we are doing chapter 6, life processes. And now we have to do transportation in plants in detail. I have already told you in the previous video lecture that about everything we have done about human transport system, that is the blood circulatory system. Then we studied about the heart, its structural features, how you have 4 chambers, how the blood, why do you have 4 chambers, and how the blood flows in these 4 chambers. That is what is the passage of blood through the heart. Then we discussed why it is known as double circulation, what is systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation. These all terms we have already discussed. Then in the last class, I also told you an introduction about transportation in plants. Transportation in plants is done by 2 tissues, which are xylem and phloem. Then we'll be discussing, firstly, we'll be completing a short topic, that is lymph. Lymph is a topic related to transportation in humans. So lymph, what do you mean by lymph? This lymph, it is also known as tissue fluid. Lymph is also called tissue fluid or extracellular fluid. Then what is the function of lymph? How is lymph formed? We'll see. The next point would be lymph, we have given the name it to be tissue fluid. I'll explain you what is lymph, how does lymph flows, where lymph is present, everything we'll be doing. The next is, this flows inside or within the lymph vessels. The lymph flows inside lymph vessels, like the blood flows in blood vessels. This lymph is colorless in nature. Then the fourth is, it contains less proteins compared to blood plasma. So the lymph contains very less amount of proteins compared to blood plasma. And what is the difference in composition? We say that lymph contains blood cells, mainly WBCs. Then you can say that they lack RBCs. RBCs are not present in lymph. And then lymph contain many other things, like some amino acids are present. And these amino acids are responsible for the formation of proteins. Some amino acids, etc. So this is a brief introduction of lymph. You will be getting a short question if you get it in examinations. So remember, lymph is called tissue fluid or extracellular fluid. Then this lymph flows within the lymph vessels. As you have all over your body the network of blood vessels where the blood flows, that is your circulatory network, circulatory system. In the same way, all over the body you have the lymphatic system, okay? This lymphatic system contains different lymph vessels within which the lymph flows. Now the lymph is colorless in nature compared to plasma. The blood plasma, which is the fluid part of blood, it was colored. It had a yellow color. But this lymph is colorless and it contains less amount of proteins compared to the plasma of blood. Lymph, except proteins, it contains some amino acids, blood cells, but it does not contain RBCs. Now let's see how this lymph is formed. So what we have is, the blood vessels, you all know when we discussed in the previous class about arteries, veins and capillaries, I told you how the blood is transported to each and every cell or each and every tissue of body of multicellular organism. So consider this as a structure of or surface of tissue which is made up of different kinds of cells. Now what you have next, we said that arteries carry oxygenated blood from the heart, away from the heart to the organs. And these arteries, they divide into smaller and smaller blood vessels which are known as arterioles and veins. Sorry, arterioles and capillaries. So this is the artery. Then this artery further divides into smaller and smaller capillaries. So these are the capillaries carrying the blood. The very thin fine blood vessels which are present in the form of network on the surface of tissues, it is known as capillaries. So here these capillaries connect or are supplied to each and every cell of the tissue. It is spread on the surface of tissue like a network, and hence these can also be called as capillary network or capillary bed. So what we have is, when the oxygenated blood or when the blood comes on the surface of tissues, it is supplied to each and every part or each and every cell of tissues with the help of capillaries. Now these capillaries, let's suppose this is an enlarged view of capillary. So these capillaries contain holes or very small pores on its surface. These are the pores of capillaries. That is, the small fine holes present on the surface of capillary. Remember, we are studying capillary in detail. So what happens when blood flows on the tissue through inside these capillaries, then some substances come out from the blood. Through these pores, some substances come out from the blood, and these substances may be sugars, amino acids. Then you have blood cells, which are your WBCs, because WBCs do not have any definite shape, okay? So these can be easily forced to be pushed out from these pores of your capillaries. Now what happens is, when the blood flows through the capillaries, then some substances like sugars, WBCs and other blood cells, they come out on the between these intercellular spaces. So these capillaries remove out or release out from their surface these substances like the blood cells and sugars, which come into the intercellular spaces present on the surface of tissues. And in these intercellular spaces, this is your tissue, then the capillaries release these substances into the intercellular spaces. And then you can say that intercellular spaces, they contain vessels which are known as lymph vessels. And in turn, all these substances get filtered out from the blood when the blood flows through the capillaries into the intercellular spaces of tissues, and they enter into, and these all substances enter into the lymph vessels, and in turn the fluid containing all these things is called lymph. So this is an idea. What do you mean by lymph? What do you mean by lymph vessels? All these small lymph vessels, they join together to form a large lymphatic vessel, and this lymphatic vessel, it connects to every cell and tissue. Then this lymphatic vessel joins to the veins, and in turn from the veins the blood is transported again to the heart, and the same circulatory cycle revolves or continues on. So this is an idea about lymph. Let's revise it. Lymph is tissue fluid, and this flows within the lymph vessels. These lymph vessels are present in the intercellular spaces of tissues. Then it is colorless and it contains less protein. It contains blood cells like WBCs, because WBCs do not have any definite shape, so they easily filter out or release out from the pores of capillaries. And then I gave you an idea about introduction, how this or formation of lymph, how lymph gets formed. These lymph vessels, they join together to form larger sized lymphatic vessel which open up to veins. And from the veins, these veins would carry deoxygenated blood again to the heart. So this is the function of lymph, formation of lymph, and some structural chemical composition of lymph. Now the heading would be transportation in plants. So transportation in plants, just similar to what we did in animals, that animals are, humans or advanced animals, they are complex organisms, they have organ system level of organization, so we required a definite system for transportation of useful nutrients to each and every cell, and then we also require a system which collects all the waste material and then the waste can be removed out. So how do transportation occurs in plants? I already told you that we say compared to animals, plants are somewhat simpler in their body organization, structural organization. Why these are considered to be simpler than organisms? Because they cannot move, they have less energy requirements. So then the next reason is that they compensate most of the energy requirement through the process of diffusion, because most of the cells in plants are dead cells, and these dead cells perform the function to give mechanical strength to plant. Because these dead cells are giving the strength to plant, and they do not require any kind of nutrition. That is, they do not require any kind of energy. So we can say that the energy requirement of plant is small and which can be easily fulfilled by diffusion. Then we also said that in plants, most of the parts of the plant are exposed to the air. That is, you have 85% of the plant body directly exposed to air. So each and every part can take care of its energy requirement by itself, by undergoing diffusion, taking oxygen, different gases from the environment directly. So then why we require a transportation system? Because other internal organs of plant, they cannot undertake oxygen or other gases directly from the environment. Then the food or water is absorbed by the roots of plant. So when the roots absorb water, this water need to be transported, okay? So how to transport water? Here diffusion alone cannot do so. That is, diffusion cannot transfer the water absorbed by the roots to the higher or the tallest part of the plant. So we require another process, and for this we have a tissue which is called xylem. So transportation of plants, we will be doing transportation of water and transportation of complex food, that is glucose, sucrose, carbohydrates. I already told you, so now I am not making a flow chart. We discussed that xylem tissue is responsible for transportation of water, phloem is responsible for transportation of food. I said you phloem starts from fur and food also starts from fur. Then we said that the transport of water done by xylem is unidirectional, and the transport undertaken by phloem is multidirectional or bidirectional. So we will be seeing now each and every single tissue in detail. So first let's start with xylem. And both these tissues, xylem and phloem, which are responsible for transportation, all together or combinedly, these two tissues are called your conducting tissues of plants or vascular tissues. So let's start with xylem. The first point is, it is responsible for transport of water and also the minerals which are dissolved in water. Then we say that it is made up of 4 parts, that is xylem tracheids, It is made up of 4 parts, 4 different types of cells, which are tracheids, vessels, then you have xylem parenchyma, and the next is xylem fibers. And because you have read in 9th standard, because it is composed of 4 different types of cells, this is also known as complex permanent tissues. You call xylem to be a complex permanent tissue. Why complex? Because it is made up of 4 different kinds of cells. Now, writing of the function, this xylem parenchyma, it is responsible for storage, and xylem fibers are responsible to provide strength. So, parenchyma and fibers, they do not have much significant role in the transportation of water. So, you say that tracheids and vessels are tubular structures which form a continuous column and are responsible for transporting water water transportation. So, parenchyma and fibers, I already told you their role or their function. Now we have the 2 things left, tracheids and vessels. These tracheids and vessels are the cylindrical tubular structures present in xylem or present in plants. And these tracheids and vessels, these are responsible for transporting water because they form a continuous column. Why? What is meant by continuous column? These tracheids and vessels are present starting from the roots to the above higher parts of the plant. So these tracheids and vessels, they join one above the other. Okay, they are the tubular like structure. Let's suppose you have the plant here. This is the base of the plant that is made up of roots, and in the roots of the plant you would have, see, these would be the roots of the plant. Then you have the stem and the branches or leaves. So these tracheids and vessels, if I try to explain you, these are the tubular structure, cylindrical tubes, and these form a continuous column starting from the base, that is roots, and ending to the top or apex part of the plants. So this form a continuous column-like structure throughout the body of plant. And in turn, when the roots absorb water, then water moves through these tracheids and vessels. And because it is a continuous column with no break in between, so the water can be transported very easily from the roots, that is from the source of absorption, to every part of the plant which whosoever requires water. So this is in turn how this water is transported. Now one more thing which you should remember about transportation of water. The 4th point, okay, about transportation of water, you understood that once the root absorbs water, this water travels through the continuous conducting column of tracheids and vessels, and in turn it gets every plant part receives water. Now we are left with the question how these roots are able to absorb water from the nearby soil particles. These are your nearby soil particles. So what causes the water to move from the soil into the roots? What is the reason behind this? Because whenever you water the plants, you give the water to the soil. Yes, you provide water to the soil of the plant. So how come this water enters into these plants? What is the reason behind this? See, we say that absorption of water by the roots occurs by the process of diffusion. Yes, diffusion process is responsible for the transport of water, for the entry of water from the soil to the roots. And how you can understand? Let's suppose these are the soil particles. And then this is your root. Okay? So this root, everything is made up of cells, you know. So this root is made up of different cells, which you can call them to be root cells. So these are your root cells. I have drawn a very enlarged view. And these are the soil particles. Now what would happen when you water the soil? The amount of water in the soil increases compared to the amount of water present inside the cells. These cells have less amount of water in the form of cytoplasm and cell sap, everything, compared to the water amount or quantity of water present outside the cells. Now because of diffusion, you know diffusion is the movement of water or any particle from high to low concentration. So you can also call this osmosis. So here what happens is water is present in large amount in the nearby environment, nearby soil condition as compared to the cells of root. And then this water, due to osmosis or diffusion, would enter the cell of root. That is the first cell of root. Now water has entered the root. Then how does it travels along the root to higher plants? So you can see that in the first cell, now the first cell contains high amount of water compared to the adjacent cells. So now this water will move further because of the same process, because of movement of water from its higher concentration to lower concentration. The water present in the first cell will move into the adjacent cell. And as a result, a continuous column would be established for this transport of water, and this would get transported to the higher parts. Now we say that we have a force, a great force working on the earth, that is gravity. So how can this water travel upwards against this gravity force? Does gravity does not apply on plants? No, it is not so. Gravity applies on each and everything present on earth. So how come this water is moving upwards against the gravitational pull or against the gravitational force? If you think this, okay, this we are discussing some general concepts which need to be visualized and clarified for your better understanding. This is the transport of water through the xylem. It occurs by diffusion, or more preferably you can write osmosis here. And this I have explained you how does it occur. That is due to concentration gradient or difference in concentration. Difference in concentration you can also say to be concentration gradient. Now we were discussing that what causes this water to reach up to so much heights. So yes, diffusion process cannot compensate the flow of water to higher positions in plants. This is again a very important point. In the last slide, we left with 4 points. So now continuing with the 5th. Diffusion alone is not sufficient to transport water up to large heights in plants. Then this is the next problem, that is the gravity is pulling. So the diffusion force or diffusion process is not so much stronger that it transports the water to much height in plants. So how to overcome this problem? Many experimentations and researches were made in this field, and then it was suggested, you will read these all experiments in higher classes also, that what are the different theories which are given by different scientists to support the water movement against gravity up to such larger heights, if you consider very tall trees which are commonly found. So diffusion though cannot support the transport of water. Then next we have a new term here, transpiration Okay, this transpiration process, it is responsible, or you can write it is helpful. Now this transpiration is helpful to transport water up to large heights in plants. Everything is the same, okay, after 2. That is to transport water up to large heights in plants. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor from the leaves through stomata. Again, recalling you the definition of transpiration, that is loss of water from the leaves through stomata in form of water vapor. This is called the process of transpiration, what you have with you. Now, how this transpiration is responsible? This transpiration, it creates a suction pressure, because what we have is this: you have a plant and you have leaves, and these leaves perform the process of transpiration. That is, the leaves, they remove out water or release excess water from their stomata. Now, when they release out or lose the water, then a water deficiency is created. After performing transpiration, you have water deficiency created in the leaves. This theory of transpiration, okay, which is responsible for transport of water up to greater heights, this we have to know in very brief idea. You should have till this level, till class 10th. Then you will be dealing with all kinds of theories, and especially this theory in detail in your higher classes. So there you would have a complete understanding how transpiration helps in water conduction or water movement. But for now, you can understand that these leaves are losing water because of transpiration process from their stomata. When these leaves lose water, a water deficiency is created. Now this water deficiency creates a kind of suction pressure. Suction pressure is the same whenever you drink cold drinks or any drink with a straw. Then what you do is add the tip of straw. If you want to take the cold drink inside your mouth, then you apply a suction pressure. The same kind of suction pressure is applied at the leaves. So whenever after transpiration a water deficiency is created in the leaves, these leaves apply a suction pressure. So we say that due to transpiration, you have water deficiency in leaves, and this water deficiency creates a suction pressure similar to which you create whenever you want to take any kind of cold drink inside your mouth with the help of straw. So similar kind of suction pressure enables the movement of water to be absorbed from the soil and to move up to great heights. This suction pressure is responsible for transportation of water up to great heights in plants. Okay, and in turn this theory, that is transpiration, this process is also called transpiration pull. Because of the making suction pressure kind of thing, this pulls the water and makes it to come high above, to rise high above against gravity. This is very strong force. So this theory is called transpiration pull theory, because diffusion alone cannot cater or compensate the need to transport water up to large heights. Transpiration pull is the process which is being required for the water transportation. This was all about transportation of water. Now the next is transportation of food. So how food is transported? See, food is transported with the help of phloem. Okay. Now in this, you can also make a diagram that is xylem which is responsible. We did it in the previous section. See, water is always absorbed by the roots, and this water from the roots travels in upwards direction. Hence, this is also known as xylem is responsible for unidirectional flow of water. Unidirectional means from downwards to the upside. Whereas this phloem, if you see, this phloem is responsible for multidirectional transport. Why we are saying multidirectional? Because food, let's suppose food is made in this leaves. Now the food made in this leaf need to be transported downwards to the roots and also sideways to all the branches and stem. So you can see the transport is multidirectional, or you can say bidirectional transport. And transportation of food through the phloem, this process is named as translocation. And this is again a very important question which you get in exams. What do you mean by the term translocation? So translocation is the transport of food, which you can say transport of complex carbohydrates, amino acids through the phloem. And then for this is called translocation. Like in xylem we had 4 different parts, phloem is also made up of 4 different cells. Phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma are the same as xylem. They serve the same functions. The next two responsible for translocation, the next 2 types of cells of phloem are sieve tubes and companion cells. So these work together and are responsible for the process of translocation. The next you have one important thing in this is this transportation. Like for transportation of water you had diffusion and transpiration pull. For this there is a change in certain sort of changes occur in the osmotic pressure, due to which the food along with the water moves through this phloem to different parts of the plant. So this is about xylem and phloem, that is transportation of water and food in plants. Now in the next we will be starting with the new topic, that is excretion, and excretion also we have to study in both animals and plants. This would be completing your chapter 6. Till here, if you have any sort of doubt, you can contact us anytime. Thank you for joining the class today. Stay home, stay safe and keep studying. Thank you.